So you've laid out your first city in Cities Skylines 2, but when you see this demand meter, you don't know where to start. So let's take a deep dive into zoning in Cities Skylines 2 and talk about how each zoning type works and when to use them. First, we have residential, which has 6 different flavors. All of these come in North American and European themes. Low density is single-family homes with space for a few citizens. These are able to be zoned in various sizes from 2x2 tiles all the way up to 6x6. For variety, you can mix the different themes together and vary up zoning sizes. Low density is the most common type of zone in the game and will be available without unlocking any milestones. With low residential, it typically can support all wealth types and ages of citizens, but it is the preferred zone type of families. Next, we have row houses. They operate under the medium density demand, but are exclusively one tile wide zones. They are unlocked at tiny village milestone. To make these look good, I like to zone them facing the same side of the street by leaving one tile of space on each end and then zoning in the edges as everything develops. They look best with a small alley or pedestrian path in the center behind them, but you can do a lot with these zones. They have a slightly higher capacity than low density zones and are great for transitional areas between suburbs and city centers. Proper medium density zoning is unlocked at the small village milestone and tends to be larger sized mid-rise apartment buildings with a higher citizen capacity than row homes. These come in sizes from 2x2 tiles all the way up to 6x6 tiles, just like most of the other zone types. Getting demand from medium and high density residential tends to be a thing many players struggle with, as medium and high residential tend to be preferred by young adults and in some cases lower income people. A way that I've found to generally increase demand for medium and high density, and it's not necessarily the most realistic, is to ensure that you've got a well-educated population with adequate college and university coverage. This brings in younger adults and college students to help bolster demand. I'm not sure if this mechanic is just a weird bug in the simulation or by design, so take that information with a grain of salt, but I have seen it work for me. Next, we have mixed-use zones, which are unlocked at the tiny town milestone and help to satisfy a mix of medium-density residential and commercial demand. These are typically wall-to-wall buildings, so I like to take care in how I zone them so they sit along the street in ways that look nice. They have retail shops at the bottom and mid-rise apartments at the top. Mixed-use buildings also seem to have the most distinction between European and North American styles and appearance, as opposed to the other types of zones. Our first high-density option is low-rent housing, which is unlocked at Grand Village. These are large tenement buildings which hold lots of residents and are attractive to lower-income people. For this reason, they do best in areas with low land value and attract low-income families and young adults. Regular high-density tends to be more of a late-game option. It is unlocked at Big Town and builds massive, high-rise buildings with the highest capacity. I've noticed that these also use up the high-density demand bar much faster than low-rent housing and are more attractive to higher wealth sims as well as young adults. For commercial, we have 2 options, low and high density. Both have European and North American themed options. Low density is best around major thoroughfares with lots of traffic between citizens' places of work, in industry and office zones, and their homes and residential districts. But they typically can be placed everywhere. They specialize in selling specific types of goods, which are either imported or manufactured in your industrial zones. High-density business is unlocked at the Great Town milestone and satisfies commercial demand at a faster rate and spawns a mix of mid-rise and high-rise buildings which employ more sims than the smaller commercial zones. For both types of zones, you will see an overlay with the amount of customers. The darker orange or green the area is, the more customer traffic, which indicates where it is best to place these zones. Industrial zones only come in one theme and density. They process raw materials either from specialized industries, which we'll cover in another video, or imported from outside connections. and use them to create material goods, which in theory are sold by commercial zones, although a lot of times I see them exported as well, so it all depends. Industry zones create air pollution, which must be accounted for. When zoning, you'll see the wind direction overlay, and it's important to place them so that your residential zones are not downwind of the air pollution. Office zones come in two sizes, low and high density, and these produce immaterial goods and services like media and software, and process goods from commercial and industrial zones into those immaterial goods. Offices typically require highly educated workers, which makes education very important in your city to maintain healthy office demand. Lower density are unlocked at Grand Village and are small and employ less workers, while high density is unlocked at Small City and gets you those massive high-rises, which are great for city centers. Typically, I like to have low-density office as a buffer between industrial and residential districts, and high-density office zoned in with other high-density zone types like residential and commercial to create a bustling downtown area. While it does take some work to balance your zoning demand, one thing to note is you don't have to fulfill the demand meters down to zero. It's okay to ignore low density, for example, and focus on improving education and other city services to generate more demand for higher density zoning types or offices if you prefer your city to be denser. You can also replace any zone type at any time, and the new ones will grow in over time as demand arises. If you're looking for more guides on how to play Cities Skylines 2, I recommend you watch this next video. And thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to y'all next time.